Alright, 13 love, 13 knowledge, 13 wisdom, 13 respect. This is your Creation 13. Today is going to be another presentation discussing the same value of prayers and magic spells. That's right. Praying is magic spells. And I can imagine everybody turning this video off like right now. What do you mean, Adam? What do you mean about prayers or magic spells? Well, that's what this presentation is going to reflect upon. It's nothing bad, it's nothing negative, it's just being aware of what we've been taught in church, of what we've been taught through the religious realm, right? So many things that I was taught as a Christian, I never even thought that that's what it would be, right? I've always had the saying of praying is talking with God, talking with the Creator, and then meditating is walking with Christ, walking with the Creator, right? You have that visual imagination, and you're in that realm, right? But what is praying? What are we asking for? How do we ask, right? Because I was taught with praying that it was begging and pleading and crying to God and Christ for answers, for revelations, things of that nature, right? And at the end of the day, that's not what it is. That's not what it is, because we got to be responsible. We got to know what we're asking, right? There's always that saying, be careful what you ask for, right? It's the words, it's the vibrations, it's the frequency. If you're hurt and you're sending out that negative frequency, you're going to get that back to you, right? Oh, why does this happen to me, right? I've been doing a lot of self-reflection on it, and I think that's what inspired this presentation. I'm working on other ones, but this one is one of the ones that stuck out, and I was like, hey, I'm going to present this today because I've been looking at this on a personal level, identifying it, reading what it's all about, right? Praying and magic spells. What's the difference between them? Is the only difference just a term that has selective dialogue, selective narratives that justify what's being presented, right? Justify what's being presented. When at the end of the day, it's all the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and present that now and go from there. For those who stick around, awesome, because I guarantee you're going to learn something that you didn't think about, and it makes a lot of sense at the end of the day. I just got to pay attention. So let me switch my screen here, and boom, there we go. Alright, so prayers / magic spells, and we're going to go ahead and start with Matthew 6, 1 through 4. Be careful not to practice your laws and morals, your righteousness and magic, in front of others to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your authorities who are in the higher realms, right? Your fathers, the chiefs in the higher dimensions. So when you give to the spiritual hungry, the needy, do not announce it with trumpets as the actors and stage players. This is the term of hypocrites, is actors and stage players, as they do in the house of the assembly, in the synagogues, in the churches, and on the streets, to be honored by human judgment. Truly I tell you, they have received their worldly reward in full. This is what we see today, right? We see actors and stage players performing in churches and on the streets with selective dialogue, and they're actors, right? Man, there's one person that they were publicizing just because he was saying the word Jesus. Oh, look how cool it is, he's saying Jesus. But it's not teaching people nothing, right? They're actors and stage performers. They're not teaching anything. You're just sitting in the seats like you're watching a play, right? You're just watching a play while all these actors and performers are reading a script to you, feeding you acting, feeding you something to mess with your psyche, to mess with you psychology-wise, right? And it says it right here in Matthew's, which it just astonished me. I was like, wow, look at this. But when you give to the spiritual hungry, the needy, do not let your left side know what your right side is doing, right? And basically what that means is help them out, but don't generate a selective narrative for them, right? One of the things that I've learned over time is that we have to empower people. We have to uplift people. We have to bring them into a sense of awareness of self-value and worth, right? That's what I get from this. We don't want to tell them, do this a certain way, do that a certain way, right? Or this is the truth and this is not the truth. This is false and this is right, right? A true teacher will teach you things, will allow you to do errors, and will help you in a correction process. But there is no truth or false when you're learning and you're developing, because you're learning what you can do as an individual. Hopefully that makes sense. So that your giving may be in secret. Then your authorities, the higher ups, who sees what is done in secret will reward you. And this gets interesting, like who are these spiritual authorities? Well, in the Christian reality, you're going to think of God and Christ, and that you'll have your heavenly rewards. But it is huge. It goes beyond that in so many ways, right? Because every word that is spoken is an incantation, right? It is invoking something. It is invoking something. So when you're helping somebody, you're helping them. You're not playing an actor, or you're not on a stage performing and advertising a narrative and a selective dialogue, right? You're spending one-on-one time trying to uplift people out of bondage, right? And what is bondage? Is those who have made contracts with spirits that have made them get into that state of being. It's huge. It's huge. All right, we'll move on to the next one. There's so much to talk about. It's uncanny. So we'll go back to this again. Actors and stage players are the hypocrites. I was taught hypocrites was people who do one thing but then they do the other, right? And that still would be acting, right? At the end of the day, a lot of people are liars. They're fake. They put on a role, they put on makeup, they put on a certain outfit, right? And they go and perform in an audience. In the ways of the world, they perform out there. They get you going with music, selective narratives, to make them sound like their religious choice, to make them sound like their spiritual practice, to make them sound like they're high and mighty, right? That's actors. That's stage players. You got to look for authenticity at the end of the day. I'm telling you right now, there's not a lot of people who are real, who are authentic. That's real talk. Like, this is me, 100%. Who you're talking to right now is me. And people don't like to present that, especially when people are creating and generating businesses. And I deal with businesses, and they always say, "Oh, you gotta straighten up that tie. You gotta look pretty, stand upright. Be an actor. Be an actor at the end of the day, right? That the role that you play in the business has to reach a certain what's the word they use? Criteria, a certain way of looking at things, and it feeds people in, right? The more flashy stuff you got in the background and the flashy outfits, people buy into it. They buy into the acting. It's crazy. People put on a show of entertainment to sell something to you or recruit you into an agenda with a guidebook, set rules, idol worshiping, and rituals. That's the guidebook, right? In any religion, they're going to sell something to you to recruit you. I think Mormons are a good example. They knock on your door and they try to recruit you because they want what? They recruit you, then they're going to get your money, and that's it. Here's your guidebook, the Bible, set rules, your idol worshiping tools, and your rituals. Not joking. And it's both good and bad. And it's not just in religion, but it's in spiritual practices too. It's even if you're not even into religion or spiritual practices, you still have rituals in idol worshiping. If you're all about glamour, you're going to be at the mirror putting your makeup on and make sure you have the right outfit and everything else, right? That is rituals. That is a guidebook. You already have that set mind frame of what your guidebook looks like, right? And who's idol worshiping? Your image is your idol, right? In religion, a lot of people worship the Bible. They worship that book like it's an idol, right? Even though Christ said, don't worship nothing outside yourself. Religious practices deal with a selective God to be worshipped and spirits to help heal and destroy the inner self and outside self, be it good or bad. Psychology is used most of the time to brainwash you to selective thinking. That stage performer and actor is brainwashing you to a selective thinking to make sure you don't matter, but what they're selling you matters. Not joking. Spiritual practices deal with energy work within the self and outside in nature. Mastering spirits that are in your life from generational curses and contact is a huge one. And contact with people who transfer spirits through intimate and skin contact, like a simple handshake. I get this all the time. People want to shake my hand. Just out of the blue, people want to shake my hand. And I'm like, I noticed that. I was like, hey, wait a minute. Why are people wanting to shake my hand? So I was like, oh, hey, let me just do this. Right? It at least keeps a little bit distance, right? And when you shake a hand, that's a binding contract agreement. So be careful who you shake hands with. But this is huge. This is huge here. Spiritual practices deal with energy work within the self and in nature. Mastering the spirits that are in your life from generational curses and contact with people. We already have spirits within us. We have legion of spirits already in. And people don't understand what that means. They don't. There's already spirits within you, especially if you've had a traumatizing childhood, right? Or something traumatizing within you. You've generated those spirits. Spirit of fear, lust, loneliness, money, greed, loss, stress, all these entities build within your being, right? And generational curses, I've seen these generational curses. I'm experiencing them now. It's uncanny, and they're real, and they continue, right? This vessel here can harness many spirits and cause physical harm to you if you're not taking care of these situations, right? Which is what spiritual practices and religion is supposed to be helping you with, is getting rid of these legion of spirits within you, right? Intimate and skin contact, transferring spirits. Man, these spirits can transfer from body to body, right? Just like a cord, like a fishing hook. It is uncanny. And this is why we get all these weird thoughts and dreams that don't make no sense, because we have transferred, these entities have used the host to transfer their spiritual energy to you. That's why you don't sleep with people, right? That's why it says to wait until the right person, because the more people you sleep with, the more spirits you gain, and more than likely negative, right? Because they don't know what they're doing. An intimate act is supposed to be sacred, not lustful. So it generates a lot of different entities that bind you on this world. There is more to this, but this is the basics of religious and spiritual practices. And I was trying to keep it simple, but man, it's so hard. It's so hard. And we may come back to this, but let's continue on. One of the words meaning to pray is palel, from the parent root PL, which literally means speak to authority, right? The parent root letter being the picture of a mouth and the picture of a staff. The mouth in this case representing speaking, and the staff meaning authority, right? So you always see people with staffs, authority. Like one of the bigger ones later on was like the serpent, right? The knowledge of wisdom, speaking knowledge and wisdom, right? Authority and power, right? The magic staff, magi, which I believe is the next thing here. Yeah. The root from which both magus and magic stem refers to a sorcerer. The old Persian magus also gave us a word familiar to gamers as a magi. And a magi is an astrologer, a sorcerer, or magician of ancient times. And you know what's really interesting? These are prophets, right? These are prophets. And just do research on that, man, because what are prophets? They see into the future. They study the stars. They used spells, which is what I'll explain here in a little bit. And this was all done in ancient times. It's talked about. This is what Jesus did, right? Oh, no, he didn't. No, it's in there. Middle English spell meant to mean or to signify, which probably developed from the French Espeller itself, from the Middle High German spellion, meaning to relate or to talk, right? So as you talk, you're generating spells. This spell in modern English then came to mean to read slowly. And what is the English way of speaking? Slowly, letter by letter. Spell referring to magic incantation is of different origin. That's what it said when you look up the word spell. And I was like, oh my God, it's totally different. I was like, no, a spell is a spell, right? It's all related. It's all related. You learn how to spell. The spelling bee. You learn your A, E, I, O, U, right? Those are vibrational tones. A, I, O, U. They teach you how to cursive. So you're writing and you're spelling, right? You're learning how to create incantations, spells. At the end of the day, that's what you're doing. When you're writing a book, you're creating a spell. When you're writing a prayer, you're creating a spell, right? When you're writing a contract, you're creating a spell. It's uncanny. It's just right there. We're all magi's at the end of the day. Just people just don't know it yet. Let's see. Testimony, and I'll explain this, I think, in the very next one. But this is important to understand, because when you think of testimony, you think of religious narrative. But in actuality, a testimony goes into law. A declaration by a witness under oath, as that given before a court or deliberative body. All such declarations, spoken or written, right, offered in a legal case or deliberative hearing. Evidence in support of a fact or assertion. Proof. A public declaration regarding a religious experience. In the Bible, the stone tablets inscribed with the 10 Commandments, 10 spells, right? A declaration of truth or fact. Law evidence given by a witness, ESP, orally in a court under oath or affirmation. Evidence testifying to something. Again, the 10 Commandments and the Ark of the Covenant as a reciprocal of this, right? So we're dealing with law here, right? We're dealing with laws, oaths, things of that nature. So when you're speaking a testimony, you are speaking an incantation of this is real to me. This is my narrative. This is my story. This is my experience and encounter. And then since you're up on stage, you're the actor feeding the audience your testimony. Is that crazy? Man. All right. So I had to make this as short as possible. I want to do more scriptures, but I think this really helps you see. And I'll be making more presentations on this because I really feel it needs to extend out more. But this is a good example. So 2 Timothy 1, 3 through 8. I think, and then you put your selective deity within there. So when I have this in here, this is just like a contract, right? So it says in here, I thank God. But you can put any deity in there. And be careful with this, right? Whom I serve from my ancestors with pure awareness, that without ceasing I have remembrance of you/them in my spells/prayers night and day. This gets weird. This is literally a contract. So let me say this again. I thank, and then the deity, God or Christ, whom I serve from my ancestors with pure awareness, that without ceasing I have remembrance of you/them in my spells/prayers night and day. Greatly desiring to see you or them, being mindful of you or them with tears. Tears is an offering, a sacrifice, that I may be filled/energized with joy, right? So you're winning joy within your life, right? You have sacrificed your tears for joy, right? To the deity who can bring joy into your life. When I call to remembrance, so with the word lois was used in 2 Timothy, which translates as remembrance, which basically means a memoir or a offering, right? Something to remember. You're offering something in remembrance. When I call to remembrance to the deity, a memory or offering. The not genuine selective faith that is in you/them, which dwelt first in your grandparents, it's talking about generational curses, which dwelt first in your grandparents and your parents. And it was weird because it said in victory, Enis, translated as victory, but to me this is defeat, because it goes on to say, I am forcefully manipulated, persuaded, that's what it means. I am forcefully manipulated, that in you/them also was forcefully manipulated. So basically, they did these rituals, our great-grandparents, right, did these rituals to these deities, and we're paying the price for it now, right? We're paying the price. We were forcefully manipulated, and we're still being manipulated to this very day, right? It blew my mind when I was reading this. I was like, what? That's why it's so important to use a dictionary. So you can go to the free dictionary on the internet. It'll help you a lot in breaking these words down. Wherefore I put you such them in remembrance, again, in memory and offering, that they stir up the gift of your deity of choice, which would be God or Christ, which is in you/thee, by putting one of my hands, by the putting on of my hands. So this is just the laying of hands, right? The crafting of your hands, right? The magic spells. You put a magic staff in your hand, right? You're crafting. You're laying your hands down, right? Some kind of offering, right? And this gets deep. This doesn't mean, but you're offering something with your hands, right? Say this juice here could be an offering. Be like, hey, I put this offering so that I can have some joy in my life, right? This brings me joy drinking it, right? So these hands are crafty. They bind, they loose, right? It's very interesting. For the deity of your choice, God or Christ, has not given us the spirits of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. This is incantations. This is incantations. This is speaking your spell out. That I want power, love, and a sound mind in my life. What a deity is going to bring you out of fear and put power, love, and a sound mind into your life. This is literally a contract right here, but this is incantation. You speak this many times. I do not want the spirit of fear in my life, but I want power, love, and a sound mind within my life, right? That's a spell, right? You can say it's a prayer, but it's a spell. Be not ashamed of the declaration, right? A testimony, and we talked about what a testimony means. A selective oath of a selective authority. Lord translates as authority, a selective authority. Or of the bonds, I had to look this up because I was like, I don't think prisoner is right. So bonds means a binding agreement or contract, right? So let me read this again. Be not ashamed of the declaration, a testimony, a selective oath of a selective authority, or of the bonds, a binding agreement/contract, but be partakers, witnesses of the afflictions of the good news, or here's the kicker, gospel. So gospel, you put in D, you got God spells. That's right. So the whole time we were told, hey, you need to read your gospels, it has always been the spells of the gods. Not joking. And I can imagine all the people that will turn that off. But it's right here in the scriptures, right? God spells, the spells of the gods. I, according to the power of your selective deity, God/Christ, right? And that's a legal binding contract right in the Bible. This blew my mind. I was like, holy cow. That was just crazy to me. So let's move on. But that was a real good example of what we're looking at when we're making agreements with deities. This is why it's important to be aware of where your prayers or your magic spells go to. Who are you speaking to? What a deity are you speaking to? What invisible force are you speaking to? Do you know who you're speaking to? Right? This is religion, spirituality, 100%. And we're not taught this, but it's right in your face, man. All right. So, at the end of the day, this is the end of it. What good does this knowledge do for me? What good does this knowledge do for me? I hope it did a lot for you. Going through all this, it opens my eyes and makes you more aware of what's taking place. And the silliness of people being actors and stage performers and selling you a religion or a spiritual practice without having the knowledge and awareness of what this stuff is, right? Of what this stuff is, right? Well, they're selling you spells. They're selling you ways to promote their selective narratives. But what benefit does it do to you? It's benefiting them. But what's it benefiting you at the end of the day? So it's just becoming aware and self-sufficient. Is this overthinking? No. It's opening your eyes to the magic spell we've been under for thousands of years, right? The Gregorian spell, right? I've said this many times throughout the videos. Some people get it, some people don't. But we're under a 12-month spell, and everything within it is a magic spell, right? You're put under bondage. And look at the history of the corruption of religion and the corruption of spirituality. Do your research on that, and you will see what has happened. That our individuality has been taken away from us. Our strength has been taken away by slave and labor. Our authority has been taken away, again, by slave and labor, right? So this opens up your eyes of like, hey, do I matter or do I not matter? You're sitting watching a play with actors and stage performers. That should tell you, what are you doing, right? And wouldn't you rather be watching a movie or something else? But you're watching actors and stage performers promote something, but what's it doing to you? What's it benefiting you at the end of the day? How do I discover God in Christ without those practices? Good question. How do I discover God in Christ without those practices? You're going to be doing those practices anyways. Why? Because that is part of our being, right? Because we are not just this meat suit. We are a soul that this meat suit holds. To get back in contact with where we came from, because we're in amnesia, right? We don't remember. We're trying to remember things, but we're stuck in these magic spells. We have to tune in. This is why it's so important to read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John in the Bible with Christ and his story. He told you to go within yourself, to discover God, the Creator, within you. Unlock your soul, and then gain communication back to the ancient ancestors, right? That's what Christ was all about at the end of the day. So you're going to be performing these kind of practices, but you can be self-aware of what you're doing, what you're asking for, how you're asking for it. And I'll definitely try and think of some simple ways to show what that looks like, right? Because there's always some kind of offering you have to represent. So what does that look like, right? I've been learning this daily. So I'll look at making some kind of videos on those. How do I know spirits are in control of my life? Just look at your life. Look at your life, right? I've been through a very trialing and challenging test for the past month. It's been hard. So I've been looking at who is controlling my life. Who is the puppet master, so to speak, right? Who is controlling this situation? Because you can say, oh, God is in control, and just say, meh. But no, I want to know who is in control, right? I want to know why this stuff happens. Who's controlling other people? I want to know, right? I want to know these things. I don't just want to assume or believe, because belief simply just means you don't know, right? I want to know. So you want to know what is in control of your life. If you feel there is something that is holding you back, it probably is some kind of a deity. We can hold many spirits within. Have you cleansed yourself? Have you discovered your generational curses? Have you had trauma? Things of that nature will tell you what is controlling your life, your vessel, right? Basically, do your research on the leaders and people before going into a selective religion or spiritual group. This is huge, and that's what I talked about, I believe, last video. Is if you're going to a religious leader or spiritual leader and people, do your homework. If you want to just sit there and watch these actors and stage performers, go right ahead. But it's not going to do you no good. It does them good because they're getting a paycheck from you, but it does you no good. It does you no good at the end of the day. If these religious and spiritual leaders and those in the group are not elevating you, helping you, caring for you, and that they show that you do matter, they're not doing these things, walk away. Okay, just get out as soon as you can, because they don't care about you. All they care about is their paycheck and their selective narrative and dialogue. This is what the world's seeing right now, right? This is where Christianity is getting hit pretty hard right now with this, because of all the actors and stage performers, right? They say one thing, but at the end of the day, people see what's being sold to them, right? They're not seeing progress. They're not seeing spiritual growth within an individual. They're just seeing body counts. Oh, I saved that person. But they don't consider, oh, hey, maybe that person needs 2 months of tutoring under my wing. Oh, I saved 10 people. Maybe I should be tutoring those people for 2 months to help them through their thing. Oh, no, I just need the body count. That's it. That's what people think. They don't care about you, right? You have to care about people. And I think that's where people need to, these religious leaders and spiritual leaders need to look at what they're creating. So like, say Christ, for example, right? There's a lot of symbolisms here, but I think if you had 12 pupils under you, right? 12 learners, 12 disciples, and you took them under your wing for a year, something like that, I think that's what you have to do, to teach them and then send them out, right? Teach them what you know, so you know that you care for them. They know you care for them, right? Just like in Japan, right? Under your sensei, right? You are learning from your sensei. And the goal is to be either of equal value as your sensei or surpass your sensei with love, honor, and respect, right? That's huge. Make sure you matter and others matter. It's not just a setting of actors, scripts, and stage performers. And I've been talking about this through the whole thing. Just make sure you matter and others matter. It's not just a setting of actors, scripts, and stage performers. Once you're done watching this, man, you're never going to be able to see these people the same way again, because you're going to realize they're actors and they're scripts. And there's performances. It's uncanny, man. You might as well just go to a music concert. Enjoy yourself, you know. If they say your life does not matter, just walk away. At the end of the day, you ask those spiritual leaders and religious leaders and groups, hey, do I matter? If they show you, or you see that the people that are sitting there for an hour, that the acting on the stage is more important than the people watching, get out of there right away. So that's pretty much it. Man, I don't know what to say after that. Just be aware of what's going on in your life, right? Be aware of what is being presented to you at the end of the day. Be aware of how you say your prayers, right? Because now you know it's the same thing. Prayers, magic spells, incantations, they're the exact same thing at the end of the day. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's just, now we know. Now we know. And knowing this helps you develop a relationship with Christ better. It helps you build your relationship with the Creator better, because you understand it now. It's not just an act that you perform, not knowing if it's going to work or not, right? That's what praying is you don't know if your prayer is going through. Man, there's so many times before I had my awakening of like, man, did my prayer go through? Was there static? Did someone cut my line to the Creator? Did the Creator not hear my prayer? Right? We think like this because that's what we're taught. Whoa, something's going on here. Hold on here. Something weird's going on here. Whoa, that was weird. Sorry about that. I'd edit this, but it's a little hard. That was interesting. That was interesting. All right, so interesting. I don't know if it caught it on that side or not. So anyway, sorry about that interruption there. But at the end of the day, it's important to realize this stuff, so you know how your prayers go through, how your what to look for, right? Paying attention to people who are fake, the actors and stage performers, right? Because it's about you, empowering you, right? Getting to where you need to be in life, right? You have to learn to be responsible and have good morals and values. This stuff is not talked about anymore. That's what I talked about in the last video, right? Understanding that every word matters at the end of the day. Every word matters. Everything that you say to somebody matters, right? Everything that you present matters, right? So be aware of what you say and how you say things. And make sure it's good. It's of value. Uplift people, right? And then when you say prayers, be it of an upliftment, right? You know, I want love in my life. I want honor. I want respect from people, right? Look at those things within your life. You know, those are the kind of spirits that you want in your life, is of love, of honor, of value, courage, creativity, right? You know, present those things, right? And a lot of the sacrifices that we bring, or offerings that we bring, is the labor, right? We have to work for it. We have to sacrifice something to gain something, right? At the end of the day. And that, at the end of the day, we're doing magic spells every day. You're going to work, you're doing a magic spell, right? You get up in the morning, you're doing a ritual, a magic spell, right? You say something over and over again. It's a magic spell, right? You say a prayer, the same one every day. It's an incantation. It's a magic spell, right? Be it good or bad, right? It's the Bible's full of it. You just have to read it. You read through Psalms, it's nothing but magic spells, right? They say it's praying, but it's magic spells. It's incantations over and over and over again. So it's just being aware of it so we can gain our power back, right? Gain our sovereignty back. Otherwise, these actors and stage performers are draining your energy. You're just sitting here going, okay, while they're just enjoying their mansions and their jets, and they talk good. They talk good, but they're not teaching you the right things at the end of the day. There's a reason why all those books are burned, and there's a reason why they had that. I mean, it's the Vatican, man. Back in the day, the Vatican, they burned all the books, and then they had the selective doctrine, the Bible that we have now. Now, granted, that Bible was a lot bigger. A lot of the books were taken out, but at the end of the day, there was a selective narrative in there for a particular reason that can be discussed later. But yeah, so anyways, I'm done. 45 minutes in. Hopefully you learned something from this. Hopefully you stay tuned through the whole thing. So yeah, so love yourself, keep shining bright, and I'll talk to y'all later.